It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the USA Rhythmic's Gymnastics Olympian, Isabelle Izzy Connor. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in competing in gymnastics?
Ever since I was really young, my parents had me try a bunch of sports, and my favorite was always dance and gymnastics. So I started out in regular, like artistic gymnastics, and when I was about 8 years old, my coaches suggested that I go to Rhythmic because I kind of had the body type. I was more flexible. My arms weren't as strong, and I liked playing with the ribbon and the apparatus and doing things to music. So that's why I chose Rhythmic. It had more of a dance aspect to it.
Of course, what was that experience like going to UC Santa Cruz, and did you compete in gymnastics while in college?
I only started going to full-time school at UC Santa Cruz right after the Tokyo Olympics. So I actually technically retired after the Tokyo Olympics, and I didn't think I was going to come back to the sport. So I didn't do any gymnastics for about a year and a half. And I just came back to the sport back in October. So I had a full year of like in-person school, and I still go to UC Santa Cruz. I'm just taking a break in my classes and only doing research right now.
Of course, what was that experience like, obviously balancing being a student at UC Santa Cruz and being an Olympian?
Yeah, so most of my preparation for the Olympics, I wasn't yet enrolled in UC Santa Cruz. So like I was only taking a couple classes online just to get my general education requirements out of the way. So I prioritized gymnastics and just getting whatever requirements I could out of the way. And it was just a lot of time management, but it was definitely difficult. When I first came back to the sport in October, I still had to finish out my first quarter. So I was just up really late and I had to be very disciplined in my time management, and I made sure I planned out like every hour of my day to when I was studying, when I was driving to training, when I was doing my tutoring. I just had to be very disciplined about it. Yeah.
What was that feeling like for you to get to make the national team and get to represent Team USA?
Well, I first made the national team when I was 17 years old. That was when I first made the group national team. And that had always been my number one goal throughout my career, just to make the national team. So when I got that, I remember just feeling like at the time I was just really grateful, and I wasn't too worried about what was to come. And then I got bigger goals after I was successful on the national team. So yeah.
Of course, what was that feeling like the first time you got to put on that Team USA and represent the national team?
It really just felt like everything, all of the goals, like the small goals that I had made and all of the work that I had done had just all come true, and like the belief in myself, and like I was so dedicated to my personal like process of getting there. It was just very validating to me that like I could do what I set my mind to, and I was on the right path in what I was doing. So yeah.
Of course, for my listeners that don't know, what is the difference between rhythmists and trampoline gymnastics?
Yeah, so rhythmic gymnastics, I mean, there's a lot of disciplines of gymnastics. There's rhythmic, there's trampoline, there's artistic, which is like what Simone Biles does. there's acrobatic, there's tumbling. Rhythmic is unique because we do all of our routines to music and we use like handheld apparatus. So we use a ribbon, we use a ball, we use clubs, and we use hoop. And we have an artistry component to our score and also a lot of difficulty in what we do. So we have to be super coordinated, we have to be super flexible, we have to have high stamina, we have to be really strong and be able to move quickly and react really quickly. And I do group, so I'm competing at the same time as like four other girls. So we do like a synchronized routine collaborating with each other. So you have to have this level of connection and awareness with your teammates and be like super alert the entire time and focused on what you're doing and what's happening around you. So yeah, you can kind of express yourself more in rhythmic than I feel like you can maybe other aspects of gymnastics.
Of course, in 2019, what was that experience like getting to compete for the World Championship?
2019 Worlds was, I feel like, the first Worlds where I was able to fully take in the experience because my first World Championships was in 2018, and I just wasn't doing very well personally and mentally, and I wasn't able to fully be present there. And once like a year later, my goal was to be able to feel like I fully experienced it and also do the best that I could. And I took a lot of steps to get myself there, and luckily they were successful, and our team did 2 clean routines, and we made history for placing in the top 10 in the world, which is the highest that the US has ever placed in the world rankings. So that was just that World Championships is probably one of my highlight memories of my entire career in the past. So yeah, very, very good memories, lots of happiness, happy tears. Yeah.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to make history in gymnastics and getting to place so high for Team USA?
Again, it just felt like, because we didn't know that, like, that was never our goal. Our goal is always just to do two good routines, 2 clean routines, and whatever happens, happens. And we were just so happy that just focusing on those small controllable things brought us to, that huge goal of, bringing the US on such a much higher ranking than it was before. So, and fulfilling like my own personal goals in the routine, and also getting the reward from it externally was really, really fulfilling.
In 2018, of course, what was that experience like in 2019 going to Lima and getting to compete in the Pan American Games?
That was incredible because Lima, the Pan American Games, was basically a mini Olympics, and we have another Pan American Games coming up later this year because they happen every 4 years. But that is definitely another highlight memory of my whole career, and it was just so much fun to be in the village and meet so many other athletes and share that experience with my teammates in the moment. And we were really happy with how we did there and how we placed and brought home medals for Team USA. It was just really, really, really amazing.
Of course, while in Lima, what was that like getting to prepare to make that Olympic team to go to Tokyo?
Well, we qualified to the Olympics based off of our world ranking in 2019, actually, ultimately. So it didn't really have anything to do with our qualification, and we weren't really focusing on our qualification at that point. We were set up in 2019 Worlds by our top 10 ranking to qualify to the games in Tokyo. So yeah.
Of course, for you, what was that feeling like getting announced to make that team to go to the Olympics, to go to Tokyo?
Yeah, that was definitely probably one of the best days of my life, and I think all of my teammates can agree that, because the day that we found out, we were in Brazil at the Pan American Championships, and it was during one of our competition days, and we were trying to stay focused on our competition, but honestly, on that day, it was basically like we could feel what it would feel like to not qualify, and we could feel what it could feel like to qualify. And until we found out, we were just kind of like emotional wrecks up until then. And then finally, like when it was official, when all the continental results had come in, and we realized that like we had made the team, it was just like it's very difficult to describe, but it's basically like surreal, and like your biggest dream that you could ever imagine comes true. And especially doing that with 5 other girls who are so close to you, and everyone holds that same dream. It's just like magical. It's a magical experience, and Yeah.
Worse for you, what was that feeling like on the day of the competition in the Olympics in 2021, going and getting to compete?
It was a roller coaster of emotions. You try and stay as calm and focused as you can, but I feel like at something as big as the Olympics, especially your first Olympics, it's you kind of just have to go on muscle memory when you go out and compete and just accept that your emotions are going to be all over the place. Because, I was definitely scared. That was probably the scariest thing I've ever done. But I knew that we were ready, and I knew that we could do it. And we had a good morning. Everything was going to plan during the whole day. And I had a nice call with my parents. I had a nice call with my close friends to just ground me and keep me in the moment. And before we went on, our coach just told us, like, you don't need me right now, just do it with love. And that was the last thing that we said before we went and did our first routine. First routine was much scarier than the second one, but we did it clean, and our bodies knew what to do at that point. We were able to just shut off and focus on each other. And then the second routine that we did, that was our last routine, and we knew that that was going to be our last time competing together as a team, like that specific makeup, and some of our last times ever competing. So it was very emotional to finish that routine, and it was a mix of sadness and happiness and having done really well, and yeah, lots of emotions.
Worse for you, what was that feeling like getting to see the Olympic rings on your uniform?
Probably every single like step of the Olympic process, whether it was us getting named or us getting our gear or us seeing the Olympic rings somewhere, it was like every time it was like it reminds you like, wow, I'm really here. Wow, like I really did this. Like it's so difficult to describe in words, but it's just it's like a really, really good dream coming true. Yeah.
How has your experience been like, obviously getting to travel around the world and getting to compete in rhythmic gymnastics?
It's really been a privilege. I think when I was younger, I didn't even realize how cool what professional athletes get to do is, even though it can be really hard sometimes. And there's financial struggles, there's all sorts of different issues that we deal with. But like at the end of the day, like being able to travel the world for free, essentially. And even if we don't get to see so much, we don't normally get to see a lot of other countries, but we see what we can. And just being able to have experiences outside of your own bubble is just so valuable for like growing and maturing as a person. And it's one of the reasons why I really wanted to come back. I just am forever endlessly grateful, and reminding myself to be grateful, and reminding my younger teammates to be grateful always for what we get to do for a living. Yeah.
Of course, what is that like, obviously getting to compete and getting to compete against those different countries like Canada and other countries around the world?
Most of us are like really friendly, like all countries, most teams around the world, like especially like Ukraine, we're pretty close with. And we used to be really close with the previous Israeli team. Like most of us are all like really friendly, and like, off the competition carpet, we all are wishing the best for each other, and we all like give each other well wishes on Instagram and congratulate each other. Like no matter, how high your team is ranked compared to others, we all just love like, getting to know how other athletes in other countries train.
Of course, on competition day, do you have any game day routines and rituals that you do before going out to compete?
Yeah, I have a lot of personal things that I do, and also like the team like collectively has some personal things that we do. But like for me, something that I have to do every time is I have to do a meditation, like a very specific like focus meditation, and then after that I will go through in my head, I'll visualize whatever routine or routines I'm going to be competing that day. And I make sure I focus on the feeling at the end of the routine. I visualize the feeling of having done a really good routine, because I feel like if you really believe and you really are putting your energy into something going well, like that will eventually come to you. So I have to do that every day. And I have a couple like little things I do with each of the girls. Like I'll squeeze one of my teammates' hands really hard, and like my coach will give us all a hug and tell us it's all gonna be good. And we all hold hands and we do a chant together. We scream, "Hey, hey, USA, let's go," all the way like at the top of our lungs, while holding on to this like stuffed animal that's our kind of like team mascot. Just to kind of like get the extra energy out. So yeah, that's a couple of the things that me and the team kind of have to do every day, every time we compete.
Of course, what were some of your favorite memories and moments competing in the Olympics?
Um, I think competing in the Olympics, definitely the end of our last routine when we had done two really good routines and we were finally done and you can finally like fully let yourself feel everything because you don't want it to like interfere with your performance. But when you finish, kind of all your emotions rush in and just like slamming the carpet at the end of the routine and looking around and making eye contact with all of my teammates who were literally like my sisters, my best friends that we had been through COVID together, we had been through so much together, and just looking at all of them and like just having that feeling of like we just did that and like just like that was just such an incredible memory. And what's another good memory? It's hard to put my finger on one because it's almost like my memory is almost a little murky of specific moments. I just remember all of the feelings that I had there, like just meeting so many other people who had been through similar things as us and like other athletes from different sports, athletes from other countries, like being able to trade pins with them and like make new friends was just so cool. And like just being around a group of people who everyone has a level of understanding of each other that is difficult to find.
Of course, what was that feeling like for you going to the Olympics and being at the top of your career and having that moment of like, Mom, I made it to the Olympics?
I think like I really felt that like, you know, that like, hey, look, mom, I made it kind of thing in at our Olympic. It was like technically called Olympic trials. It was really our national championships. Like we had it shared with artistic gymnastics and it was rhythmic and artistic. And that was where and trampoline. And that was where they announced like the Olympic team like on TV and everything. And they had the big celebration. They played like the song like hey look ma I made it by like I don't even remember who. And that was like when they sent the fireworks off and like everyone like the whole arena was full of people and it was a home crowd. Like that was probably the most really like elated like moment where I really and my parents were physically in the audience, so like that was great to experience. Unfortunately at the Olympics my parents no parents could come and watch. NBC did like an event for them so they were all watching live. But you know we FaceTimed them like right after our routines and like I said hi to the camera and everything, so like yeah, that it was definitely fun, but it wasn't the same as having them like be there like watching you in person.
How does it feel to have Olympian behind your last name and add OLY?
It feels pretty great. I think it's like I used to not want to be like I was afraid of seeming too like cocky about it or something, but I at the end of the day I'm kind of like I worked really 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 hard for this one thing and like I think I deserve like some level of recognition and yeah, so it's nice. I don't always put it behind my name, but like in my Instagram bio I have it there because like I don't know, you earn that and not many people can say that and I think that it's pretty cool. It's like it never goes away.
Of course, for you, what does it mean to represent Team USA in gymnastics?
I think for me, I mean, obviously, again, it's like a huge privilege to even be on the national team because so few people even make Team USA. And for me, I really just want to be like as much of an inspiration to young gymnasts as I can on like, you know, how to achieve your dreams and how to keep yourself also healthy while doing so and you know how to get mentally strong and that it's okay to have days where you're struggling, it's okay to have times in your life where you're struggling, like it doesn't mean you have to quit and it doesn't mean that like you're not going to make it into you know and just to focus on your own personal goals and try and look beyond whatever like materialistic result that's not completely in your control is. And also I hope to like kind of show everyone that you know you can be like a woman can be a scientist and an incredible athlete and multiple things at the same time and be good at them. And they're you know that I hope that I can inspire younger girls to pursue everything that they want to and not think that they can't do it because they're a girl or whatever people think. So yeah.
How is that feeling like obviously getting to meet your fans and interacting with your fans and signing autographs with them?
That's always super fun. I mean, I get so many just super sweet messages from people. I always respond to them. I really deeply appreciate whenever I feel like I've made an impact on someone, or like if someone specifically tells me that they like me in the routine, like that always makes me super happy. And being able to sign autographs, like it used to make me really uncomfortable, but now no, I'm like it makes me very happy, because I remember when I was that age and I was looking up to my older gymnastics idols. Like it's a nice kind of full circle moment.
Of course, what was that feeling like for you to get to put on that Olympic ring and have the US and the Olympic rings on your ring?
That the the Olympic ring, the physical Olympic ring came so much after the Olympic Games, and it was kind of a nice little reminder again of what I had done, because it had already like 6 or 7 months had passed, and like it was kind of like a nice little surprise when it showed up, and I was like, oh. And like, you get continual little reminders and like little benefits from having gone to the Olympics, and that was really fun. I also got them tattooed on my arm, so that's also it's a reminder that, like, it's always there, and like no one can take that achievement away from me, which is nice.
Of course, what is that like, obviously getting to compete alongside some of your teammates like Simone Biles, Gabrielle Delaclis, and Michaela Kinson?
Yeah, so I mean, they're on the artistic Olympic team, so we didn't interact with them that much. I mean, I did meet, I believe I met Simone and maybe a couple of the other girls. They're very nice. We didn't overlap much with them. I'd say we're a little bit closer with the men's gymnastics team. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's really cool to be on the same team as them and kind of all fighting for the same thing, but in different disciplines.
Of course, who are some of the teammates that you look up to?
Teammates like in my sport, or teammates like in other sports, I guess.
Teammates in your sport.
I would say, I mean, with if we're talking about like the Olympic team, I think I would look up to all of my teammates in different ways. I think we all looked up to each other in different ways, because we all brought different strengths to the team. So like each person has something that you can look at and try and improve in yourself, because every person brought something different. And I think that was a really beautiful thing about our team, and we all recognized that, and we were all level in that understanding.
Who are some of the influential people in your career that have shaped you into the gymnastics athlete that you are today?
I'd say, I mean, my first ever coach, her name was Olga Putzilo. She was the one who got me started in the sport in general, and like I wouldn't have been doing the sport if it wasn't for her. And also like my individual coach that coached me when I was older, she really changed me as a gymnast. Diana Mkhitaryan, she was my coach from the time I was like 14 maybe. And also I trained in Ukraine quite a few times with Irina Dirugina, and that also like completely changed my technique as a gymnast. And I don't think I would have like gotten as far as I have without that like extra intense training. So that, I think that was like the last thing that really put me there. And of course my parents, I mean, my parents are my number one supporters. They've never forced me to do anything. They always check in and make sure that I really want to continue doing this. They always were there to support me on my bad days and encourage me and tell me the right things I need to hear. So yeah, that's that. I'd say those are probably the most influential people up until making the national team. Then of course my current coach Margarita is like just the most incredible woman I've ever met in my life. So she's the woman behind all of it. So yeah.
Of course, for you, what was that transition like coming back home from the Olympics and getting back to your routines?
Yeah, so it was pretty difficult after the Olympics. Most athletes experience some form of a post-Olympic dip or depression or something along the lines where it's just you're on such a high of adrenaline that naturally things are going to come down. And the Olympics really is such a like epitome of like a utopia when you're in there, especially if it's a good experience for you. That when you come out of that, you're kind of like hit in the face with real life, and like everything kind of seems a little bit boring, and you have to like reconnect to, I feel like for me, I had to do a lot of like grounding and reconnecting with myself and like my loved ones, and just giving myself time to rest, because I was really burnt out. You just get exhausted after like what you put your body through and all of the emotions that you go through. I really had to just slow down and just, I went on vacation with my family, but after I came home from vacation, even I just laid down and just rested. I don't think I did any physical like exercise until like a couple months after the Olympics. And even then, while I was retired, I didn't do a whole lot. I did some dance, but That was really it. And that whole time I was really deciding whether or not I wanted to quit the sport and well, more so just retire, because it was that time in my life. And I did decide at the time to retire and go back to school and everything, but I ended up changing my mind. So luckily I had the freedom to do that.
Of course, what was that transition like, as you said, going through that process of retiring and going back to school to get your degree?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't even finished undergrad yet, and it was difficult. It was a difficult decision for me to make. I mean, when I retired, I kind of I felt like I had done enough, and the transition into school was not that difficult for me. I mean, it was definitely hard because I study astrophysics and I hadn't done math and science in years and years and years. So I had to work really, really hard. And I had to get used to making friends again, which was really fun, and like also get used to being like recognized when I'm not like accustomed to having people like random people know who I am. Um, but also just not having a strict routine. Like athletes normally have a really strict routine and you're always working towards this one really huge goal, and like you're pushing yourself every day and there's so much passion involved. That's not how like normal regular life is. And that's a difficult adjustment. And I know I will have to go through that again when I retire again. But luckily, I do have some form of a passion, which is astrophysics. But the moment that I decided to come back into the sport, it was kind of like I realized like I'm still young. My body has more that it can give. I really missed having that routine. I missed pushing myself for a goal every day. And I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could get my body back to that point and learn a new apparatus ribbon, which I hadn't had in 7 years, be on a new team where was coming back as a veteran and try and help them and Team USA as much as I could. And I knew that I would regret it looking back if the team qualified and I didn't even try to continue and make it to the Olympics. So yeah, that's kind of the encapsulation of how I transitioned out of sport and then how I transitioned back into sport.
Of course, what was that transition like for you, going from being retired to then getting back into gymnastics?
Yeah, so I started training when I was still fully on campus in Santa Cruz, and I coached at a gym called Bravo, and they let me use the space to start training a little bit. I didn't tell anyone for a while because at first I just wanted to try moving and see how I felt. And then I had a conversation with my coach, I had a conversation with our federation, and they were on board with the idea. And it was a lot of time management. It was a lot of emotions, a lot of moments of doubt where I wasn't sure if I could even get myself back into shape after having done nothing for a year and a half, or if my body would, I had to be really careful with injuries. I had to go slowly. The thing that was frustrating was that my body, like my brain would remember how things felt, but my body wouldn't remember how to do it, and it wouldn't respond to me right away. So I had to be really patient with my process and just trust in the process that I would get there. And I'm so glad that I did, because I did get there. And yeah, I'm very proud of how me and the medical team and my coaches and everyone handled my return.
Of course, what are some of your future plans in the sport of gymnastics?
For now, I mean, I want to be as successful with this team as we possibly can. Of course, the ultimate goal is to qualify to Paris 2024. But my personal main goals is just to be the best athlete that I can, and be even stronger of an athlete than I was before I retired, and just have us, do 2 clean routines when we need to do them, and everything else will be out of our control. But just to make those memories with a new team, and pass on some of my wisdom to even like my current teammates who are a bit younger. That's always been my goal, and to be a positive force and the best teammate that I possibly can to everyone.
Of course, what are some of the things that you're doing now to prepare to make that Paris team, and then eventually one day maybe make the LA team?
Well, I mean, we're at a training camp right now at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid. We come here very often. We come here like, if we can, we come here once a month if we're not traveling internationally, but once every couple months we come here. And we train really intensely. We have regimented plans for every day of training. We do a lot of mental work together as a team. We're very intentional and deliberate about the way that we work with each other. We try and be as positive and supportive with each other as we can, like block out any negativity, try and take the positive route, because that's how you can be a good team. yeah, so those are the main steps that we're taking, and those were the steps that my previous team took, and it worked out well. So hopefully we can do that and even more new things that we learn.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to compete in gymnastics in college?
I would say if you're looking to do, I mean, if you're trying to do rhythmic and do college at the same time, of course, it's not a college sport, so you can't do it. You can't do it representing your university, but you can do both. But you have to be realistic and cognizant of what your main priorities are. And I think and you have to allocate your time very wisely. So, in a quarter when you're going to have a lot of competitions back to back, don't be taking your hardest classes that you possibly can, because you could do damage to your mental health by doing that. And I don't think that that's worth it. But you are able to push yourself, when you're maybe don't have as many competitions, or if you're someone who's just really good at being disciplined and doing time management. The biggest thing is just time management and making sure that you're still taking care of yourself amongst the stress of school and college and gymnastics, to making sure you're doing those little things every day to take care of yourself and doing nice things for yourself that aren't gymnastics and aren't school, but are something that you yourself really like, is very important.
What advice would you give those first-time Olympians looking to go to the Olympics for the first time?
Well, I mean, I think everyone knows if you're looking to go to the Olympics, it's a very difficult thing to do, and there's a lot of luck involved with it, and there's a lot of hard work involved with it. But if you're already on track to make your Olympics, I think most people would already know what they need to do to get there in the best way possible. But I think the most important thing that you can do is fully believe in yourself and make sure that you're mentally strong and do all the mental work that you need to, because most athletes have done the physical work very well, and their hurdle is the mental work. And I think that is a lot of times the most overlooked thing that you can possibly do. And I would say to those who have already qualified to the Olympics and they're going to their first Olympics, I can say that there's not really much of anything that anyone can tell you to fully prepare you for your first Olympic Games, because it's just so beyond anything that you will have ever experienced in your past. But I think it's important to have a balance of coming back to yourself and grounding yourself, because you're going to get a lot of stimulation thrown at you. You're going to be meeting so many people. There's going to be partying, like everything's going to be happening at the same time. And you have to be able to be disciplined and ground yourself and come back into yourself when you need to, but also allow yourself to have those unique experiences and be in the moment, and just accept that the Olympics is a different type of competition than any other competition. It's not like any other competition. It just is a unique thing. And I think it's important to just accept it as that. But that doesn't have to change your game day regimen and your competition day regimen. It's important to be able to practice coming back into that focus amongst all the chaos that's happening around you.
What advice would you give those people, such as yourself, that went from being retired to then transitioning back into the sport that they love?
I would say that I definitely underestimated what my body could do after all those years of training, even though I felt like I was out of shape. And I think, especially in gymnastics, there's a big stigma around taking long breaks. But what I've learned is that it's actually extremely healthy for your body to have breaks, and your body heals itself and your mind heals itself. So I'd say just have full belief in yourself, and on the days when you really feel like maybe you just can't get back to that place that you were before, just know that your body has those neural pathways in it. It just needs a little bit of time. You have to be patient, and you have to think positively, and do your strengthening exercises, do your PT exercises. Do not go too fast, or else you will get injured. So you have to go slowly and just be patient, and it will come. So yeah.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram at izzy.connor. So that's izzy.connor. And then I also use TikTok. I think I have the same username on TikTok. Those are my two main social media platforms that I use. So yeah, you can follow me on either of those.
Thank you again, Izzy Connor, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the U.S. Rhythmic Gymnastics.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Izzy Connor, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.